Welcome to the Snakeherder podcast.
All right, thank you for joining me once again. This is Matt Nauman with another Snakeherder podcast. Thank you as always to Reptile Rapture. And today I'm really excited to have a guest. It's going to be great for once not to just have to listen to me monotone all day. You got somebody else to listen to. And he's got a great voice for radio to go with my face for radio. And this is my friend Paul Zuelke from Key Reptiles.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for joining me. Thanks for making the trip up here. So anyway, Paul is he's located out of the Madison area just like I am. I'm going to have him tell us a little bit about himself, his snake business, how he got his start, some of his current projects, some of his future projects, what he's excited about working with, and just going to get another breeder's input and perspective on the hobby and what they're interested in. So why don't we get started? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got interested in the hobby, and what led you to starting Key Reptiles?
Sure. Thanks, Matt. I just want to say thanks for having me over. I've been listening to the podcast, really enjoy them.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So like you, I love reptiles. As a kid, I was always fascinated with dinosaurs and any kind of reptile, snake, turtle, frog, you name it. If it crawled, I loved it. I really fell in love with snakes at a young age, too, and just fascinating the way they move, fascinating the way they eat, fascinating just everything they do. I lived in the Baraboo area, right along the Baraboo River, and I used to catch snakes as a kid, garter snakes, and I think I was probably breeding snakes at about 7 or 8 years old in my backyard in a trash can.
Wow, that's I can relate to the catching garter snakes thing. I never thought to breed them at that age. So
it
you beat
really
me to
breeding,
that.
too. It was more of I collected them and threw them in one big trash can with sticks and leaves, and I wanted them all. I didn't want them to be free. I wanted to keep them until my mom found them, and then that all ended pretty quickly. So it was tough to bring any animals into my house as a young boy because my mom didn't really like animals, so I had to sneak them in kind of thing. And I always kind of kept one or two, but never had a nice collection until I was able to get out of the house and kind of have my own place. And I had some serious girlfriends too, so I couldn't really get too into the hobby. Probably about 5-6 years ago, I ran into an old friend of mine that he was living on his own and I was on my own, and we kind of started chatting, and he had a few animals. And I had a few animals, and we just kind of put them together, and we said, hey, let's have some fun. So he moved in.
So that'd be John, right?
Right. You met John a few times. He's my partner in crime, I always say, when we were at the expos and everything. He's a great friend. I've known him since, junior high. So, and then, yeah, we came together kind of late in life, in our 30s, probably early 30s. And we've been doing it for a while now. He's got some animals, I got some animals, we got some animals together. We kind of grew our collection a little bit. I bought some stuff from you. And ever since, it's been great.
Yeah, that's actually kind of funny how Paul and I met. I had posted, I had some racks for sale, and they were on my website, and that was it. And my website was kind of, which unfortunately right now is not up, but at the time it was very, under the radar. You search ball pythons, you get 7,000 pages of stuff, and somehow Paul found me on Google, which is an act of God, I think. It was very difficult to find my page on Google looking for ball pythons, but he found it, emailed me. They were still available, came up, and that was right when I was getting rolling. I was on, I think, my second or third year of breeding at that point, and it was kind of cool to show him what I was up to, and it was kind of funny that he seemed really impressed by what I was doing then, and now he's doing way more than I ever got into. And cooler stuff, and it's kind of the tables have turned now. I haven't been to his place yet, but every time I go and see him at expos and stuff, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm so jealous of where you're at. Whereas I remember you basically making the same type of statement to me at the time that you came here in my little 9x9 spare bedroom I used to work out of. So it's kind of cool to see somebody else who's taken some animals that I sold and did so much with it and done something cool, which is one of the reasons I thought you'd be a cool person to talk to today. So what's the background of the name Key Reptiles?
I struggled with coming up with a name for the business. I knew I was going to do a business. I knew I needed a name. A lot of reptile guys use their initials, or they use just their name. I thought of PZ Reptiles. I thought Paul Zuelke.
Yeah, I was going to be MN Constrictors right up until the point that the guys I worked with started making fun of me, calling me the Snakeherder. So that's where
nailed it.
Yeah, it's actually good idea is a good idea, even if it comes from a jerk. So
right. Well, I struggled, so I came up with it mainly with my last name being Key. Zuelke kind of ends with that, and I wanted.
That was my theory.
Yeah, and I kind of needed an object. I knew I needed it for marketing reasons, for making a business card, for doing just logos and stuff like that. I wanted something tangible, and then when I came up with a key, I kind of just started to roll. Like, I could come up with a lot of ideas with just the word key. So yeah, that's kind of the birth of it.
It's a good idea, man. That's you said we're all competing for good ideas in this market, and so you got one.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. So we're going to talk about some stuff other than ball pythons, and I've been very ball python focused since I started this podcast, and I promise we're going to get out of that. I mean, we're always going to talk ball pythons. They're just the coolest snake in my opinion, but as far as ball pythons go, I know you're working with some great ones. Matter of fact, I'm very lucky. Paul brought up a big pile of some super fires and a bunch of banana crosses, and brought me a banana enchie, and we went around and around debating out of the 2 banana enchies which ones are yellow belly and which ones aren't. And so I still don't know if mine is a yellow belly, and it doesn't matter because he's smoking hot, and I just like him the way he is anyway. So I'm really happy today is a new snake day for me, which is a rare occasion for me these days. And it's really cool. It's the first time I've got one from Paul after selling him most of my collection and most of my best babies I've ever produced. So.
I think this is the first time you've bought one for me instead of me buying from you.
It is. I've only got like 40 more, and then we'll be even. Right. But anyway, so as far as ball python morphs, what do you have that you're most excited about working with, and what do you don't yet have that you're most excited about?
Well, there's so many, and there's so many beautiful ones. And I do love working with ball pythons. I love all of the animals I work with, but balls are really pretty and they're easy to work with. Right now, the banana enchies are probably one of my favorites. I am a big pieball fan. Classic.
I'll sell you a super enchie banana cinnamon down the road.
There you go. It's a possibility, man. If it's
or
beautiful.
A trade.
Right? That's always an option. Yeah, I've got an Orange Dream Butterfire a male that I've been throwing around to a lot of females and stuff, and I've come up with some new combos or some beautiful stuff that I've never produced and some amazing stuff. That's where those super fires came from. And then I think one of them has either I just lost
one of the super fires you were saying.
Orange Dream,
Orange Dream or butter,
right? So because the super fire yellow has been just reduced to completely almost a white snake. So when that one popped out, I was pretty impressed. So I want to work more with that Orange Dream Butterfire. I have a leopard enchie spider as well that I got from Garrick.
Leopard is the big thing that I don't have yet that I want to start incorporating into what I'm working with.
And that's where I was about 2 years ago. Like, I need leopard. Like, I love how leopard and
works
spider together.
Awesome with the dark stuff. That's what I like about it. Is I'm kind of looking to when everybody's going brighter, I'm looking for what looks cool dark, and I love the leopard combos, the leopard mystics and the leopard Mojaves, stuff like that. That's what I'm hoping to get into. I'd love to get a Mojave again too, because I don't have any Mojave in my collection, and I know you bought a lot of cool Mojave stuff for me.
Oh, yeah,
so I'm hoping to get back into some Mojave, and maybe if I'm lucky, it'll be Mojave from my own bloodline. So
probably,
cool
if you get it from me, it will be.
All right.
I've got that blue-eyed Lucy male.
Yeah, that was like one of my first relatively large sales. I was pretty excited to find somebody who was willing to spend that kind of money for something like that back then, and I still regret not keeping at least one of them. You got one, and Richard's got one, and I don't know if he still has it, but he talked me into a trade. He kept harping on me. He kept saying, "When are you going to give me some? I got all kinds of stuff. What do you want for that blue-eyed Lucy?" Now they're a lot more accessible, but
they're still beautiful. The blue eyes is just amazing.
It really is, and I remember the first time I hatched them, looking at them and being like, "They're so much bluer than I thought they would be." I mean, they're almost fake looking. It's really, and I like the Super Mojos myself, just because I like that smoky head color. I mean, white's great, but you can make white snakes all day from all kinds of different combinations.
Yeah, I kind of like the dirty.
Yeah, I like that purplish head you get with the Super Mojos. I think they're my favorite. Blue-eyed Lucy is the Super Mojave, which is funny because a lot of people they're a lesser favorite, but I think that it's one of the coolest versions of it.
I agree.
But What don't you have that you?
There's some really like the bamboo stuff. Some of the newer jeans. There's some beautiful things. I know we were talking scaleless earlier too, just off record, but man, they're beautiful animals. There's so many that it's hard to pick. I do like the classic albino piebald. You
can never go wrong with
right.
pied and pied combos.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not real stoked about like the pied stuff that. Where they tend to be extremely high weight, like the cinnamon pieds.
Sure.
They tend to lose all the pattern. I like the stuff that's got more.
Right.
I like that's one of the. I'm not a big fan of pastel myself, honestly, in a lot of cases. But with pastel pieds, what I like is that they tend to be low white, which I actually like. I really like a low white pied. My first pied I ever hatched was really low white, and I was really disappointed. And I actually got 2 out of 5 eggs in a head-to-head breeding. I got pieds. And one was about 40-60, which was cool to me. And the one that was like 10% white, I was really disappointed with. And now I wish I had that snake. I really wish I did that. Now I really like that. I think what pied does outside of the white is really cool.
It is. It's not your normal ball python pattern at all, even colors.
Yeah, and then are you more interested in the recessive stuff or the? I mean, it's like I like the dominant and codominant stuff personally because of when you add 3-4 in the mix, you never know what you're going to get. You can breed the same. I've mentioned this before. You can breed the same pair year after year and get different results.
Right, the Christmas clutch.
But, yeah, exactly.
I do love that. You don't know what.
But
each egg is.
The recessive stuff. There's that hard-earned victory side of it too.
Right.
Everyone's heard about me and the caramels. It took me 3 clutches to produce a damn caramel.
Right.
And when I saw them, they were the coolest thing I ever saw.
Right.
But of course I sold them like I do with everything cool I hatch. But
I want to get in more of the double recessives. I want to get some Xanthic.
That's definitely a cool way to go.
Yeah, I've got some VPI Xanthics now, but I definitely want to get those into the pieds. I want to see some cool stuff.
Yeah, I've always loved Axanthics, and I bought into them early, and I had a Joliffe Axanthic, which unfortunately, by the time it was 2 years old, it looked virtually normal.
Yeah,
it had a great black back on it, and it was a terrible feeder. At like 3 years old, it was the size of a yearling. It just
you get some
mouse eater, all that business, It just so I had bad luck with Axanthics. I know our friend Jim Stepflug. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He's got some great VPI stuff.
Yeah. His whole collection. I mean, talk about someone to look up to.
Yeah, that's another guy I'd like to get in here someday, maybe. But he's been a cool friend to have. And personally, just to throw in my own 2 cents too, the recessive that I almost hate to tell people about this because it's just like, to me, I'm just can't believe that the market isn't flooded with people trying to get them yet. I am a huge fan of Ultramel. That's the thing I've been bothering Jim about buying into Ultramel, and he keeps producing males, and I want a female in the worst way. But to me, that's like the coolest thing ever, that you get the caramel look, but even brighter, and you don't have to deal with the kinking and any of those weird issues that you get with caramels. And just, I've got bad luck with caramel, so I'm thinking maybe Ultramel is a better route for me to go. So. And Garrick just produced 2 Ultramel pieds this year that were really just smoking. If you get on YouTube, check those out for sure. But so I guess we've kind of covered what I was going to say too, just about morphs you don't have in your collection that you want to work with. What about just this season specifically? What are you breeding right? We're kind of in the heart of the breeding season. What are you breeding right now that you're really excited about?
Well, a lot, like I was kind of talking about that Orange Dream Butterfire. I've got him mixing with a few females right now, and I've got that Leopard Enchi Spider. I do a lot of just kind of your simple stuff. I do have a clown and a pastel clown. I've yet to ever hatch out a clown.
That's a morph I've never owned that I really, now that they're not $1,500 for
the first time I saw
morph.
Garrick with a pastel clown and a super pastel clown, I knew right then and there that
he did some
I
ridiculous
need
clown
that,
stuff.
Yeah, I need that snake in my life. and I've got a lot of Mojave stuff. We talked about it earlier. I've got a pinstripe.
I'll never get tired of Mojave stuff personally. I think it's like the most underrated morph. Honestly, I mean, a lot of people have them and stuff, but I think they get downplayed. I mean, and even just their combos. I'll never get tired. I could never get tired of hatching Mojaves. almost every, morph to normal breeding I've done, that's like always been my favorite. It's just like, and you cut those eggs and they're Mojaves.
Oh, yeah.
Just and the way they change over time, the way they bleach out, and the way they look faded when they get a little older, they look cooler when they're big, which is a big thing to me too. There's so many morphs that look cool as babies that look,
especially ball pythons tend to fade.
They tend to look a little normal when they get bigger.
Right, they really do. Oh, I've got some genetic stripe stuff too going. I've got
that's
little
definitely
project
cool.
going. Yeah,
not done anything with that personally either.
I do love the genetic stripes. I've got a fire pinstripe het genetic stripe.
That would be a really clean animal. I would imagine.
So I'm
that's
hoping
going to be a
pop
cool
some of
combo.
those, right. And I've got some lavender albinos, the Xanthics.
That's my other weakness. Those are my two: is the lavenders and the ultramels. It's the albino, but not albino.
And I love albinos too. So anything like that is just beautiful. I think anything that high white, high yellow, and the lavender just really pops. I got some lesser spider stuff. I've got a bumblebee going with that leopard inchy spider. Lots of ball python action this year.
What do you got going this year that isn't ball pythons that you're?
Yeah, I've got quite a range. I've got the blood pythons. So we do reds, blacks, T positive, T negatives. I've got an ivory and a couple matrixes.
I've always been a big fan of bloods as well.
Me too.
I've owned a lot of them. I've actually, my reasons behind owning snakes have changed some with fatherhood, and I'm more excited about like as far as things that we don't touch so much. I take my son out to field herp. That's kind of where
great.
I go. As far as that's one of the reasons I got back into ball pythons was I bought him a sand boa for his bedroom, thinking that was a cool thing to look at and everything, but it hides most of the time, and when I take him out, he bites. And
right.
So he'll say, "Can I hold him?" I'm like, "Oh no, not a chance.
Sorry, bud.
I don't want to turn you into a snakeherder." So, so that tends to be a observe it when it's like now when he comes out from under the substrate. It's like Christmas. It's like, oh my God, there's a snake in there. Let's check him out. So we bought this when we bought our cinnamon enchi. That was he was so excited to get to hold one. And another on a side note. At the last Wisconsin Reptile Expo was actually the first time my son ever held a snake was at Paul's table. That's Paul awesome. Handed him a Mojave, which I imagine came from my bloodline,
definitely.
Which came from Garrick from Royal Constrictor Designs, technically, way back. But so anyway, snakes that were produced with bloodlines from snakes I produced was the first snake he got to hold, and Paul was the one to bring one out of the cage for him to hold. He got to hold a calm little Mojave, and he thought that was the coolest day of his life. So now he loves holding ball pythons, and that's one of the things I love about him is the fact you can hand them to a 5-year-old without a whole lot of, there's not a great big, not the anxiety attack I would have if he was holding, say, a chondro.
Right.
So
definitely. And some of those bloods, especially when they're young, can be
I've had a lot of them that even when they don't, ones that don't bite, they're so twitchy. They tend to kind of move real herky-jerky, and as far as a snake that you want to hand off to somebody who when they're big and calm, that's great, but I'll never get tired of looking at blood. So, and when it was just me doing it, I loved having blood pythons and short tails around.
I totally think they're one of the most beautiful snakes for their dollar amount. Like they should be
absolutely.
worth a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that the normal wild types are just fantastic. Right. You really can't beat a big, gorgeous, a nice deep red normal blood python. It's a thing of beauty, and you can have it for less than $200. Mean, far less than $200.
And they tend to get better with age.
Yeah, they really do. That's a snake that you're almost guessing when you buy it as to what you're going to get down the road.
Beautiful. And I do a lot of hognose snakes, Western hognose.
That's another thing that I've never kept, that I've always kind of had a penchant for, because my favorite native animal to our state is the eastern hognose, which are there's quite a few of them nearby. This year was the first time we found one in a few years, but the last snake I found of 2017, me and Blake found a great big eastern hognose. Awesome. And, it said, I wish I'd have taken video. I got pictures, but I didn't get any video. And he put on the whole display. He didn't play dead, but he did the whole flat neck cobra thing, hissing. Great, and they're big around here. So I don't know if you do any field herping ever, but one of these weekends you should come up here, and there's some cool stuff to find within a 5-minute walk of my house.
So yeah, I'm down. The westerns tend to stay a lot smaller, and they got a lot more color to them, so they're a little more
definitely.
popular,
Our easterns are pretty drab up here. It's more it's the personality and the shape and things that make them cool.
They're a fun snake.
And if you know, I got another friend, Mike Day, who amazing photographer and field harper who finds everything in the universe. He's clearly got more time on his hands than I do, and more skills, but. That dude, he's shown me pictures of easterns that rival some of the westerns, but the westerns definitely beat them when it comes to color in general.
And then they're small snake too, so in my collection, it's kind of nice. I can keep them, a decent amount of animals in a smaller area.
Yeah, I've always, that's one of the highlights of the Reptile Expo. Whenever I see your table, I'm always looking at your hogs. So do you work with some of the anacondas, don't you?
Yep.
That's I think my favorite. I love the anaconda.
They are fun. They got just the reduced pattern, and then the super condas where they're like literally no pattern, just kind of a neck. I've got some xanthics. I've got some albinos. I've been putting them together, so I've got some snows, the double recessive, and those are beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got some albino super condas. Those are really pretty. I'd like to get to the snow super condas. So
that would definitely. I don't think I've personally seen that. I'd imagine if you got your thumb on the pulse a little more than I do when it comes to hogs, that maybe you've seen that, but I have yet to see that, and I love the hog nose stuff.
Hopefully sometime I'll get some of those green trees. Those are,
that it's funny you say that, because that was the very next question on my list was, how are those chondros of mine doing? I don't remember what went wrong with my car, but it was something really bad where I needed to part with my two prized possessions. Where I had a really beautiful pair of green tree pythons produced by Rico Walder, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. He's the godfather of green tree pythons by all measures, and I purchased them from him about less than a year before he passed, and they were my pride and joy. One of them even lived in a cage that I put a lot of work into building at work and everything, and I sent Paul a message on a whim thinking, hopefully he'll say no. I'm like, hey, any interest in my chondros? He's like, I'm on my way.
Pretty much. I did try talking you out of it, I got to say.
I will. He certainly did not. I will give him that. He did not take advantage of my bad situation. He said, dude, are you sure you're going to do this? I said, I'm going to do it. It's you or somebody else. So it was him. So he's got my...
we'll make some babies and we'll
that to me would be the next best thing to having those two back would be have at least one green tree python produced by those two. So how are they doing right now?
They're doing good. I've put them together a few times. I've had some locks. I thought I might even see eggs, but I haven't yet. Mm-hmm. So
you said they're the more research you do, the more you're going to find. They're so far from the slam dunk that most of the stuff we both like are.
And it's just beautiful. I can't get over how beautiful they are.
You can. That's one of the few snakes that I could see just owning a strictly display animal. Right. Even my wife, who is not a snake fan, she doesn't hate them. She's not scared of them, but she doesn't have an interest. She doesn't share my interest. But she's always said, if we could have one snake in this house just to look at all the time, I would love to see a green tree python cage. So
hanging up all the curls, they're just amazing.
It's funny too how much they capture the imagination without moving. They barely do a damn thing.
They really do.
But they really are fascinating. I've never seen anything in the world that's so interesting doing nothing.
And when they do move, it's something super cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you still working with anacondas at all?
I am. I do have them. I have a couple yellows, and I have a couple patternless yellows. I even have a couple greens that are pretty young.
Really?
Yeah.
Captive bred, or are they imported?
All captive bred. The patternless, I think, came from Rennick, from Ben Rennick. I'm not 100% sure because it was kind of a deal from another guy, but I'm pretty sure they're from Ben Rennick's clutch that he hatched out a few years ago. And they are right now breeding age, and so I'm putting them together. They're a little mean.
Yeah.
Out of all my snakes in my house, I would say they're probably the most testy.
And that'd be the yellows?
The yellow patternless anacondas, yeah.
And the greens, how old are the greens?
They're just over 2 years old now. Yeah. And they're doing good. They're pretty small still. I haven't
Male
been
and a female?
Yep. So I would love to breed those. The whole Lacey Act kind of put the brakes on it there for a while, but now that they've kind of brought that injunction back so we can deal with them again. It's got my my mind going. So I love the anacondas. I love the bigger animals. I'd love to get into retics and stuff. I have a pair of retics that I never really bred.
That was one of my follow-up questions. There was what other large breeds are you working with?
Yeah.
You know, I know you posted a video or a picture once talking about a retic, and it was not particularly cooperative, if I recall right.
Was that the one that was wrapped all around me, or the ceiling fan?
I don't remember.
I had an anaconda issue with a ceiling fan at one point.
A ceiling fan.
Yeah.
And for an aquatic animal on your ceiling fan,
it was a tree that day for that Mr. Anaconda, and he decided he was going to wrap around it. I'm impressed that fan held. Like it didn't fall down.
So it was well mounted.
It was true testament. Yeah, that was a fun day. I became a tree myself to get him out and took a few bites, but we got him down.
So for some reason, I seem to remember you saying there was a line along the lines of, get a retic, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Yeah, right,
you know,
right.
And it didn't look like any of those things. It didn't look fun at all.
I've had some issues. But I do love them. I do love the bigger animals. They're gentle giants. I'd love to do some berms someday.
I've always, honestly, going way back in my mind as a kid when information was so much more scarce than it is now and pre-internet, and you'd watch a nature show and they'd refer to boa constrictors and they would refer to pythons. It was like you didn't really realize there was dozens and dozens, and I may be wrong, maybe hundreds of different types of pythons. You'd say python, you pictured a Burmese python. And that to me was like the snake. It was like, to me, that was the coolest thing ever. I knew nothing about how big they got or anything, but I know whenever you saw a dude on TV with a big snake, it was usually a berm or a boa constrictor, and I always thought the berms had the boas beat as far as looks.
I agree.
And that's why I had a thing for fox snakes as a kid, was because to me they looked like miniature berms. They had like the same kind of color, and they weren't garter snakes. So to me that was like finding a Burmese python. So to me, I've always had a soft spot for berms, although I believe there's a regulation in my area that I can't have snakes any bigger than what I already have.
And that's tough with the bigger snakes.
It is.
It really is.
I believe there's like a 6-foot limit in my town here.
Sure. And Madison's 10.
Yeah, and it's almost good when there is a limit, because it means that if there's nothing there, it means that when they bring it up and they decide to put something on the books, it's likely to be very restrictive. So, and I really don't think I need to own anything bigger than 6 feet, but if I was, a berm would be on the list for sure. Yeah. So I know a guy with some hypo berms that are just amazing animals. They're really cool looking. And I met a guy at a park one day with a 9-foot berm. I was on rollerblades, and I was like 17, and the guy let me hold this snake on rollerblades, which I would never do. I'd never hand a teenager a 9-foot snake on rollerblades.
See ya.
But luckily I'm an honest guy, and I knew that if I rollerbladed home, my mom would expect me and the snake to move out. So that was it was such a trip to me to hold a 40-pound snake that, when I was a teenager, I really wished I wasn't on skates. But to me, this berms have always had if I could own a giant, I'd rather have a berm than a retic. And I love anacondas, but I don't think I want to deal with the aquatic side of it. I mean, I'd imagine that's got to be a bit of a challenge husbandry-wise.
Not too bad, really. I've just got big water dishes. I use like the big cement concrete mixing dish. I cut kind of the edges off, and I use that as their big water dish. I do keep them in very large containers, so they kind of need some bigger space.
Now, I'm starting to really think I need to make a trip south of here to see.
Oh
these
yeah,
things,
you gotta
man.
check them out sometime. Yeah.
So you've come up here plenty of times, and there's very little to look at up here anymore. You brought more snakes than there are here. Paul was kind enough to bring a little show and tell for me today, and bring some stuff to look at that I wasn't buying. So it's been a cool day for me already. Do you, other than the hognose, do you work with anything small? Do you work with any other colubrids or
more,
anything?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm working with some tangerine milk snakes, some albino tangerine milks. I love those.
Would those be Hondurans then?
Yeah,
the Honduran milks are
they're
really.
beautiful.
I'm not a colubrid guy. I've got friends who think I'm crazy because I just don't get the colubrid thing particularly.
I do corn snakes. I would do all of it if I had more
Hondurans,
space.
Hondurans, I've always really liked Honduran milk snakes. Corn snakes, my wife likes corn snakes as far as looking at them, but
they're beautiful.
I've never cared to do it myself. Just and again, I've never been a big it's all about the money guy, but when you know how much work it is to produce double recessives, and you can produce double recessive corn snakes and sell them for $40,
you're not getting rich.
That's not any easier than producing double recessive anything.
No,
so
it's not.
Other than maybe you might get more eggs and you don't have to run your incubator as hot.
Right.
But outside of, I've just always the corn snake thing didn't get me surprisingly. But honestly, my interest in colubrids has more to do with herping. I like finding colubrids. I'll always be excited to find something. I've yet to find a eastern milk snake in Wisconsin, which is a fairly common species. But I seem to always go places that don't have them.
Well,
so
they're good at hiding too. So yeah,
so I'm definitely said to me, colubrids are about field herping, but not so much about keeping. Other than the Hondurans, do you have anything? I mean, or is that
nothing that I can say that in the near future? I've got some that are raising up. I've got an adult male, and I lost an adult female. I had a pair, and the female died on me a couple of years ago. So the male is ready to go, and I've got some younger females coming up now. So in another probably 2 years, I'll have some availability with some of those. I do have some rat snakes that I'm working with too, some Texas rat snakes, and I'm hoping to see some eggs this year. They're a fun snake, a little twitchy, but that's
always been my issue with keeping colubrids. Sure. I don't mind interacting with one in the field when when I'm letting it go, when I'm done harassing it. But as far as I had a friend who, when we were in high school, who I talked into actually. I was keeping ball pythons in high school, and he wanted to keep a snake, and his mom said nothing but the word python in it. And I said, "Hey, California King, man, these things are gorgeous. Looks like Beetlejuice, man, black and white."
Oh, and I love those.
And it was so twitchy though that he couldn't handle it. It was like, he's like, if I hold this thing for more than 10 seconds, I'm going to lose it. Honestly, I think that entire experience, because for me, hanging out at this guy's house all the time, kind of turned me off from keeping them. I realized, wow, these snakes are fast moving, and if you set it down and blink, it's gone.
And they do tend to chill out with handling them in age. I know my adult Honduran milk snake, he was real twitchy when I first bought him as a boy, a little youngster. But now I've been handling him for 3 years, and he is super, super chill.
Oh, that's definitely cool to hear.
Yeah, and the rosy boas are my other project. I really love the rosy boas.
When I got onto the sand boa kick, it actually happened because somebody beat me to the punch buying a rosy boa. There was a really cool black and white rosy boa that I wanted to buy at a pet store years ago, and when I showed up to buy it, it was gone. And they had just brought in this Kenyan sand boa as a rescue, and I happened to have a magazine that I read an article about him. So I said, to hell with it. I got the equipment. I can just tweak it a little bit. I'll take him. And that's kind of what started my interest in the Kenyans, which I think Kenyans are one of the most gorgeous snakes out there. Totally. But I have some of my personal qualms with them have to do with the same thing. They're very twitchy. They tend to be always ready for food. And when they lay in wait under the substrate, when you take them out, they tend to come out flailing their faces around with open mouths. Right, and I'm sure that with time you can get them a lot calmer and everything. But that was a mishap. A miss at trying to own rosy boas led to me owning Kenyans, which I still have a real soft spot for them. I think they're one of the coolest looking. And also after breeding them. Again, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I found the live bearers are too easy, and it's not even just that it's so easy. It's that I found I wasn't sure of where I was in the process until suddenly one day on a Saturday I came out and looked in the cage and there were babies. It was like,
surprise!
Yeah, I tell the son, hey, guess what? We have 10 more snakes today. Right. Like, I'll be danged. It was fun to dig through the substrate, not knowing how many there were. They just seemed to keep coming, but
that was fun.
But it was cool. But I missed the egg process. So to me, I love knowing that a snake is close to laying eggs. I love finding the eggs. I love retrieving them. I like setting them up. I like incubating them. I like cutting them. I like seeing them when they finally come out of the eggs.
It's a trip. How fun
it's a cool experience, and to me, it's part of what's cool about herpetoculture is the whole process,
and keeping the records and all that. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was a good record keeper years ago, and then once I became a dad, I'm like, yeah, whatever works, man. Just get them out of the cage, man. Throw them in the tubs. Right down. That one's eating good. All right, no reason to keep records anymore. Right. Move on.
And I do work with Awoma pythons too. That's when
Those are definitely a cool thing.
I love
Our
them.
mutual friend Richard Allen from Reptile
Yes,
Rapture, who I
yes.
never shut up about, he's done more with womas than anybody I know, as far as just, not saying a bunch of morphs or anything, but he's reproduced them repeatedly.
Yeah,
He sold
they're
them.
not easy either. They're a
It's-
little tougher to incubate, and he's had them as long as I can remember, as long as I've known him.
He's been doing womas for a long time. It's something that one of these days he'll be on the show, and I'm sure he'll love to talk about womas, because that's something that I know nobody else who works with them other than you two. Apparently, I didn't know you were working with them.
Oh yeah. I've got a pair. Gosh, I think I got those from Garrick. It was one of his last snakes. I was trying to get all into the ball pythons.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went to his place, Garrick had blood pythons and hognose and
green trees.
He still has a lot of green trees, although he doesn't produce a lot of them. And what he produces, he keeps. He doesn't. He's stingy.
I have that same problem.
That
too.
dang Garrick. Yeah. See, I've got the opposite problem. I produce something. Go, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Who wants to buy it? I'm like, I always tell myself, if I produced it once, I can do it again.
Right.
But it's funny how seldom I do.
I just need a bigger house and a bigger facility. I just want more and more. And more.
Once you want to go into business with me, I got all kinds of space here that isn't being used. But I remember seeing some huge blood pythons at Garrick's place way back in the day.
Cool.
And he used to have just a wall of green trees, and he recently moved. And I believe he said most of his chondro collection is at his home now.
Oh wow!
So and he said he's going to try to get more serious about it. But again, it's one of them things where how can you argue with? He can make a real living off all these ball pythons. I can't, I won't fault him for not selling me a green tree python. I did get one from him years ago that was in one of my videos that got more views than any other video I ever did. But I unfortunately sold that snake as well, and that one lives in another state that I couldn't even. Take me a long time of going through records to figure out where that one lives. So anyway, as far as other people who are interested, who don't have the luxury that I have of having you in their phone, who can call you and text you every other day and ask you what's for sale, what do you got? You got one of these? I want one of these. How does somebody else find you on the web? Or
Facebook. I've got a Key Reptiles page on Facebook. I respond to that. I need to post more is what I need to do. But I have I have text message, email, keyreptiles@gmail.com is my email. I love going to the expos. I do a lot of with the Dane County Humane Society where I teach kids. I do shows. I've actually got into birthday parties. Kind of a little niche that I've kind of found off to the side that I love kids. I love snakes. I kind of put my hands together, and I've been kind of doing a lot of business that way too.
Well, that's definitely a cool thing to be doing. So that's how we keep this hobby rolling. Keep kids growing up without seeing a snake and yelling "eek."
Right. It's amazing how when I go to these shows, the kids come towards me, and the adults all kind of take a step back.
Yeah.
To kids, they're an animal, and animals are awesome, and I want to see this animal. Adults are scared because it's a snake, and they have all the fear behind what snakes are. But once they see their kids are safe, and a lot of the adults come around too. It's pretty amazing how fast they start holding the snakes as well.
Yeah, that's definitely cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, hey, thank you so much for coming here and talking to me. I could honestly just go on and totally drop my notebook and just start asking things off the top of my head and probably entertain myself all day long. Is there anything you would care to add? Anything that we didn't talk about?
I feel this is great. Thanks for having me. This is a real fun. I enjoy listening to him, and I feel honored to be, here and speaking and being part of this whole community. It's a passion. I love it. I'm not going anywhere. I want to do more of it.
That's awesome. Well, like I said, you're one of my favorite people in the hobby. I've always enjoyed having you around, and wish we could do it more often. I see no reason that you couldn't come back in another year or so, and we could talk about this all again, see what you're up to again.
Definitely update.
And by then you should be bringing me another snake. I
want to see what you're producing.
So hopefully by then I'll have something cool, and I can trade you one of those super banana inchy cinnamons for something else cool.
You got
Get some of that Orange Dream leopard stuff up here for me.
That'd be awesome.
So, well, hey, thank you as always, just for being who you are and being in the hobby and hooking everybody else up with some awesome snakes like I know you do.
Appreciate it.
And thanks and again, he made quite the drive to come up here and hang out with me tonight and talk. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this half as much as I did, because to me this was the funnest podcast I've done yet. It's nice to have somebody to talk to, because for me, most of my personal friends, when it comes to reptiles, they're interested, but they're not not that interested.
Right.
They like
feeling.
hearing about it, but they're not involved.
They're a little weird,
and they don't get it. They don't know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
I'm teaching when I'm talking to them. With you, I'm learning as an addition. In addition to just having a good time.
Right.
So anyway, this has been a lot of fun for me. Hope it's been fun for you guys. Gonna hopefully have another one of these back and forths with somebody else here soon too. I'm gonna try to do more of this and less of just me talking, because this is a lot more interesting, I think, for me and for everybody else. So as always, thank you for tuning in, thank you for listening, and thank you to Reptile Rapture for your involvement. And if you need to get a hold of me, you got questions, comments, any kind of criticisms, email at snakeherder@gmail.com. And keep listening, and thanks, and we will talk to you again soon.